So hello and welcome to Music, Meaning and Mental Health, episode 3. My name is Mark Deeks. Welcome to another episode. Really looking forward to this. Getting different people's perspectives on what music means to them, how it helps them, how it has played a role in their lives, and talking to people who are sometimes musicians, sometimes people who are mental health practitioners or have a connection to working in the field of mental health, or coaches or counsellors. Bringing you a range of stories to make you think about how you might use music or are continuing to use music or might use music in the future just in your life to make you feel better. So really looking forward to this chat. I'm joined today by a guy called Mark Steele, who is a new person in my world, but I've got on really well with him. I've been working with him with my organisation, Sing United. But I'm going to ask Mark to talk just very, very briefly a little bit about what he does and how our paths have crossed. But Mark, if you could introduce yourself and say what it is you do, that'd be great.
Thanks, Mark. We've known each other a month, and it's been a fantastic month. You've brought a lot of happiness into my world, and I work for an organisation called the Road to Recovery Trust, and that's how we were introduced. The Road to Recovery Trust is based in the city centre of Newcastle, and we're the largest collective of people in recovery within the North East region. So we have a number of people who are recovering from different addictions and behavioural addictions. So obviously we have those who are recovering from alcoholism and drug addiction, but we also have people who are recovering from gambling addictions, computer gaming addictions, eating disorders, and we also have people who are recovering from mental health and bouts of depression and low self-esteem. So we have about 2,000 members across our social media platform. And we have like a little dry bar. We have Newcastle's only dedicated dry sober space in the city. And from there, we host like sober and clean events. We do fundraising, raise the opportunities for people in addiction. We try to challenge stigma. We work closely with Newcastle College, who are behind us, and do public seminars. And we try to do a little bit of everything to try and, I suppose, one, alleviate some of the statistics which are associated with Newcastle and addiction. You won't believe this, but Newcastle is actually the drug death capital of England for addiction. We have more substance misuse deaths in Newcastle than anywhere else in England. And we also have more hospital admissions and more instances of hepatitis and things like that as well. It's really sad. And the city's a real tourist-based city. You know, like we've got lots of bars and lots of clubs and lots of casinos, which is really good for tourism, but not so good for the recovery community. So we like to try to provide a schedule of events so that people can still have a life in recovery. You know, they can still make friends, they can still have relationships, they can have somewhere to go with their partners and their children and their friends, and they can still enjoy the arts and the cultures and all that kind of stuff that goes with that, you know.
Great. That's fantastic. What a great role to play in your community and to try and give something back in that way. So I've got a list of questions to do with music, to do with your musical taste, to do with your musical life and how music might have played a role in your life or not. So an easy one to get us started. I always say that, but it isn't really an easy one to get you started. Do you have a favourite band or artist or singer? Could you describe their music to a fan who's never heard their music in 5 words or less?
Oh.
Start with who it is that you love.
If I was to have an artist who I always go back to and who I listen to most days, I'd probably say Van Morrison.
Okay, Van Morrison. What is it? You don't have to stick to the 5 words or less, but what describe his music. What is it that it does for you?
It feels almost poetic. You know, like when I listen to his albums like Astral Weeks and things like that, his music's really poetic and melodic, and his words are really tell a tale. He's really good at telling a tale. So I would say he is poetic, tale telling. What other words would I use for it?
Well, it's 5 words or less, so if you're happy with 3, that's cool.
I'm happy with that.
Great. So, can you remember the first tape or CD or vinyl you bought with your own money, and do you still own it?
I don't still own it. But in about 1983, 84, I would have been about 5 years old in 84. There was a band from Sunderland. I don't know if you remember them, Mark. They were called the Toy Dolls. Remember the Toy Dolls?
Yeah.
And they were a punk band from Sunderland, and they did a version of Nelly the Elephant. And I remember having that vinyl single of Nelly the Elephant, and it used to have a bit where it used to go, oh, and I remember I used to, wind the arm up in the living room and then bounce all over the place to Nelly the Elephant. And strangely enough, I remember the B-side as well.
Okay.
And the B-side was called Fisticuffs on Frederick Street. which don't ask me how I remember that. That's what it was called. It was called Fisticuffs on Frederick Street.
Is Frederick Street in Sunderland?
It actually is, yes. Yeah. There's Sunderland just down from the train station called Frederick Street. I didn't find that out until recently because I've just moved over this direction.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have you ever bought the song subsequently on a different format?
Joe's, I've got it on iTunes at this moment.
There you go.
I've got it on the iTunes at this moment in time. I was listening to it the other day. I was telling a friend about it. I was playing them because they've got some really funny titles. They've got one called I've Got Asthma and I Can't Breathe. And they've got another one called James Bond Lives Down Our Street. So they're just this band, and they're still really popular in Japan. So I looked at them to see if they're touring. I'm going to go see the Toy Dolls. And apparently they're still touring in Japan. They've got quite a following in Japan. Wow. So they've outgrown their Sunderland roots.
I love the fact that, and this is something that comes up a lot in these music meeting and mental health chats, that as soon as you started telling the story about the Nelly the Elephant song and winding your arm in the living room, it's like you could picture that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. How music immediately transports you back to that experience.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Music in general does that a lot for me. I've got a lot of memories attached to music, which is why I have to be careful of the music that I listen to. Now, I'm a person in recovery, and some of those memories can trigger certain desires. So I have to be really careful about what I listen to.
That's interesting. Okay, that'll probably come out more in the rest of this chat. That's really interesting. So here's one for you: the concept of a playlist shuffle. Love it or hate it, and why?
I would say love it, but I put a playlist shuffle on and I never let them do it. I just end up picking my own songs anyway. So on one hand, I like the idea of a playlist shuffle. You never know what song you're going to get. But on the other hand, I never let it really practice out because I'm constantly through the playlist myself, just choosing what song to go on next.
When you were a child, did anyone in your family play an instrument? Was there anyone in your family who had any kind of musical skill?
Not really. I mean, my family were Irish. So we used to go down the Irish club and there'll always be a fiddle and there's always be a tin flute and that kind of stuff. I was brought up around a lot of music, really, when I think about it. Apart from the recorder at school, instrument playing wasn't something we were pushed into as kids. We were pushed into like football and being out the house and stuff like that. But yeah, so no musicians in my family. I'm just trying to have a little think.
Yeah, because sometimes we find that music is passed down almost like from generations. So if a granddad plays sometimes, but there was. It's interesting because, of course, Irish families would commonly have, like you say, music will play a role, and we'll come on to that in a second. But when you went to the club, it was to see other people play rather than anyone in your family getting involved.
I mean, my family were big Irish dancers. I know that's music based. My uncle and my sister both danced in the World Championships.
Wow!
I never did Irish dancing, but my brother did.
The next question I was going to ask was, so how would you describe the role music played in your childhood? And were your friends, or did you have friends or family where music was part of it? Because music can either be an entertainment, or it can be background, or it can be something that you work out to, or music can be used to chill you out. Music can be used in so many different ways. So when you were a child, where was music in your life?
Charles, as a kid, right, you wouldn't think it now looking at it, but as a kid I was a really angelic singer. You laugh, but I was more. So at school, I got chosen to sing solos and all sorts of stuff. And there was a period where, like I was really quite good at singing, but I was like 9 or 10 years old, like quite small, and had this. Yeah. I used to go to church, and they used to make us sing solos at the carols and stuff like that. And my mother was obviously really proud, my mother was proud. But you know what my role used to be in that though? It used to be like whenever there was a family party, or whenever there was a Christmas thing, or whenever there was a barbecue or a christening or anything, 9-year-old Mark would be wheeled out to sing for his supper.
Yeah,
And
man. I had
that's what
piano
he used to
lessons
do.
from the age of 5. I know all about that.
Yeah, yeah. So that's how it was, Mark. Like I did, I can't remember. I'm going, 9 years of age, 10 years of age. I remember being maybe 11, being in my first year at school and having to do a solo in the recital, and my mum being terribly proud of it all, and me just at that age starting to feel really cringeworthy about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Like,
What
you
about
know.
into your teenage years? When you're into your teenage years, did you and your friends go to gigs? Was music playing a part in your life at that point?
Yeah, but once I hit puberty, obviously my high pitched singing voice went the way of it went the way, and me budding singing career was dashed on dashed. But like as kids, we love music. I remember my closest friends. We used to listen to Blur, and we used to listen to Oasis, and that whole Britpop revival was coming about. And we used to go to the Mayfair quite regularly, and God, we saw bands like James and Cast and Cool as Shaker. We saw Beck, the Canadian Beck. I think it's Canadian. We saw Beck there. We saw some really good live bands at the Mayfair in that early like 93, 94, 95 era of England, like Britpop.
So you and your
Um,
friends were keen music fans. Were you like buying records, CDs at that time? Were you like copying each other tapes? How was music playing a part in that kind of side?
I had a few friends who played instruments. I had a few friends who were in bands. I had a few friends who were in quite successful bands. A little bit later, I had a friend who was signed to Clint Boon's record label from Spiral Carpets and things like that.
Yeah.
That was, we used to buy CDs. I remember Parklife from Blur. I remember because of the greyhounds on the front cover. I remember sitting at my friend Lee's house and getting a copy of it and going up to his and playing it on, like sitting in his house and playing it and that kind of stuff. Can't remember how old we were, maybe 14, something like that. But I remember we did buy CDs. Yeah, we would buy them and get them as gifts and things like that.
Yeah. So thinking now as an adult, how do you use, for want of a better word, music now? Is it something that you use to relax? Is it something you use while you're working? Do you have it on in the background when you do something? Do you actively listen and do nothing else? Turn everything else off and sit and listen to music? What kind of a role does music play for you now?
Music's huge. I listen to more music than I do watch TV. I'm a big, big music fan. And music is probably on any given moment when I'm in the house or even at work. I'll have my phone playing it, or sometimes I'll just have the radio on in the background and stuff like that. But most of the time I prepare my day with music. So when I say that, I'm quite a spiritual person. I believe in getting the first hour of my day really set to prepare for what's ahead of us. So I'll meditate in that hour. I'll write a gratitude journal. I'll pray. I'll do little bits. I'm not really religious, and I don't know what I'm praying to, but I kind of talk to a power that's greater than me. And just normally I ask him to keep us clean. Normally I just say, "Can you please keep us clean today?" And I normally eat some fruit and stuff like that, and then I listen to music. And what I find is in that hour, music and all that other stuff really prepares us for the rest of the day. So.
Are you conscious of choosing a particular style of music for that kind of ritual?
Yeah, I like hip hop and I like stuff like that. I like 90s hip hop and I like the Wu-Tang Clan and stuff like that. But what I've found is it doesn't really accentuate my spiritual core that well. I'm walking into work thinking of drive-by shootings and stuff like that. I've got a really vivid imagination.
Wu-Tang Clan not known for working on their spiritual core. Yes.
Definitely not. So. What I tend to listen to now is I tend to listen to things like, Cat Stevens, or I tend to listen to songs which have a meaning, and I'm reading my own meaning into it. So there's a Coldplay song called "We Fix You" by Coldplay, and it makes us cry all the time, and it really makes us feel a gratitude, because it makes us think of a time when I was really broken, even though that song wasn't out then. But the words in it kind of make us feel about how I am now. I'm met my 12-step fellowship and what it's like to be in recovery and how I was really broken and really lost, and they come to fix us kind of thing, And so songs like that, Van Morrison again, Steve Earle. I don't know if you're familiar with Steve Earle. Steve Earle's a big favourite of mine. I listen to these kind of bands in the morning, and John Lennon and stuff like that. Cat
It's
Stevens.
interesting you talking about placing your own interpretation on the Coldplay song "Fix You," which of course is about a very, very different story. I'm sure you're familiar with what the original meaning behind that was when Chris Martin's was it his wife's mother who was very poorly with cancer? I think something like that. I think that was the original meaning. It was a gift from him to his wife, wasn't it? But it's really interesting how people can put these different interpretations on songs, and it means an equal amount to them.
Yeah, but the Verve had one, The Drugs Don't Work. And that's about Richard Ashcroft's grandmother, I think it is, dying of cancer and how the drugs don't work. And I think so, yeah. I'm not too sure. I don't want to quote us on it, but I'm pretty sure that I read that's what the meaning of that song was. And of course, I read it as a completely different one. Like, sure. I'm thinking of me rock bottom, and when the substances I was taking, I couldn't get into my body because I lost the way of getting them in there, And my body would be rejecting them, and what I would be putting in, I would just be throwing up, kind of thing, and my body was just, rejecting everything I was putting in. And I remember being in this rock bottom of the drugs not working, the drugs not taking anything away. And that song, when I listen to it, it reminds us of those, those rock bottom days where the drugs weren't working, and recovery came along,
Yeah, absolutely. One of the next questions I was going to ask you was whether you were able to connect any pieces of particular music or records to a particular time or person or place. It's really interesting how music can do this with different people, even as you say, not necessarily in their original meaning or their original form. It's The Drugs Don't Work is a great example for you. Have you got any others, particular songs where not necessarily a sad time, but reminds you of a positive experience where you can think back and it reminds you of someone?
A Brand New Day by Van Morrison off the Moondance album. He talks about, like every day being a brand new day and being lost and all that kind of stuff. And we have a thing in the 12 steps, which is step 3, which is kind of like the start of a spiritual awakening, where you realize that you've got this loving higher power in your life, and you can just turn your will over it, and you don't need to run on your own self-will, and you can just do the next best thing, and this loving higher power will reward you as you go along. And it's like a brand new day. It feels like a big weight lift off. You've got this massive level of control up to then. And that song for me is just perfect. I love it. It's one of those songs that I listen to daily. So that song does that for me. And music and gratitude is the most powerful emotion I know. Like, gratitude will reduce me to tears. I've been on a bus and had a song come on and listened to the words, and it's been just the right time, and I've cried with gratitude for where my life is today and from where it used to be. And music is such a powerful instigator of that, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
In a happy way, it can just reduce us to absolute wow. I can listen to a song 100 times, and then on one particular day, I can listen to it and I can hear it completely different, and it'll just shelf us, like,
Yeah, that's really, really beautiful. Are you conscious of how music makes you feel physically or mentally, and any effect it has on you? I was interested in what you said before about how you've now got to be careful about some songs because they have a connection to a time that you don't want to return to, which is amazing. So I'm interested in how people are conscious of how music can affect them physically or mentally, and then either go looking for that effect or want to avoid an effect. Are you conscious of that?
Yeah, so the happiest, in my history of addiction, at about 19, 20, 21 was the whole ecstasy boom. And my head always wants to take me back to ecstasy and that boom because it was fun. Truth of the matter is I had about 10 years after that where the drugs progressed and it wasn't fun. But my addictive side of my mind wants me to convince that I was always fun and I was always having a great time. So, as you can imagine, house music and stuff like that, we used to go to the Riverside and the Shindig, and we used to go to Cream, and we used to every Friday we used to jump in the car, me and my mates, and we used to drive down to Scotch Corner, and from Scotch Corner we had a choice of where we went. We either went straight down to Nottingham, or we went to Leeds, or we went to Liverpool and went to Cream. And that was kind of like what we did, and so it was either Renaissance, it was either Orbit, I think it was, or one of those clubs in Leeds, or Cream in Liverpool, and we'd get down to that junction and we'd make a decision from there.
And music will have been playing a role in the car, yeah?
Oh, yeah, music and hedonism and all sorts of stuff, you know. Don't want to go too much into it.
No.
But so house music was really a big part of that, you know. It accentuated everything that we took. It was we thought was the purpose of the music. We always thought what a genius it would be to make this kind of music and put it with this kind of substance and know it would have this kind of effect. And we always thought the people that were making it are just genius, you know what I mean? But what I have to be careful on that stuff. You can hear how excited I am talking about it.
I don't want you to go down any roads you don't want to go down.
So, no, I mean, I can listen to house music. I go to clean raves now with people in recovery, and we have these big celebrations. So I have DJs on them. I have these big clean parties.
Great.
The problem is, though, is when it's a Friday night and I'm sitting alone in my apartment and I'm listening to house music, it becomes a very different time, like, you know, like when I'm with my friends. I don't think it's particularly something which is favourable for me to listen to by myself, as opposed to when I'm listening to it with friends, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting. You can tell whenever I ask those kind of questions, you can hear how people are immediately transporting themselves back. So I had a previous conversation with a guy who said that he could immediately smell the organ that his granddad used to play, because as soon as we started talking about it, he's like, I can still remember what that smelled like. And it's really weird how these connections are really deep wired inside us, aren't they?
When we used to go to Cream, there used to be the main room where like Paul Oakenfold used to be the resident DJ in the main room, and he's a big, massive name, you know.
Yeah.
But in the side, there was a room called the Annex, which was a smaller, lower ceilinged room, and you used to have the techno in there. And I used to be really into techno, you know, and it would have a really low ceiling, it would be really dark, and you'd be hearing all these crazy sounds coming out, real industrial era, you know, techno. And the Detroit movement had influenced it and all that kind of stuff. And we had a guy called Dave Clark who was from Liverpool, who was in he'd done Underworld, Born Slippy and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He was just techno DJ, you know. He had an influence on that kind of stuff. He wasn't in them, but he influenced it. And we used to go listen to him. And, you know, and I think when I listen to his music, I can feel the lights. I can feel the sweat dripping off the ceiling onto us. I can feel the vibration. The whole room used to seem to have this vibration of energy. You know, like, you know, people just in all sorts of states. You know,
and it's
amazing.
It's really positive how you've been able to find other forms of music that are able to, you feel now, put you in more of a positive mindset. When you said, you know, you listen to Brand New Day almost every day.
Every day.
It's great how you've managed to find ways to not necessarily control those reactions, but just find alternatives that you feel are more positive for you.
Yeah, do you know, I've got a friend who's so important in my life, a guy called Aidan. So me and my dad have a really broken relationship, and I'm sure that Aidan won't thank us for mentioning like this, but Aidan's one of my older friends. And me and my dad haven't spoken since I was like 14, no, maybe 15, 16. We've got a really, really fractured relationship. And even though I've done really well in my life and given a lot back to the city, you know, like, and I go on to help people and make sense of it, me and my dad are probably never going to sit around a table, which is fine. You know what I mean? I accept that I did a lot of wrongs in my childhood and a lot of wrongs in our relationship. You know, so Aidan, because he's one of my older friends, he's almost become like a father figure in my life. I'm pretty sure he would hate us saying that, like, but he really has. He's become like a guide, and he's become one of them people that I chat to all the time, just about life and relationships and everything, you know. And a lot of the music that I listen to, like Steve Earle and people like that, have been brought to us by Aidan. Van Morrison's probably the only one which I found, which I retained myself. But people like Steve Earle and stuff like that have been brought about from sitting in the car with Aidan and driving to the coast and things like that, and listening to music, and him, he's well into his music, and him explaining who it is, and when we go to live gigs together and stuff like that, like, you know.
But we all need people to bring us music, you know. Everyone brings us influences. We all have experiences of people playing us tapes or whatever for the first time. I'm curious to know, I've got one or two more questions. Have you seen any examples of how music is used in mental care, mental health care, or in your case, recovery. How is music perhaps used in encouraging people to play, encouraging people to create? Can you think of some examples of how music might be used in those kind of settings?
So, in terms of the play and create, I'll come back to that one. But instantly, when you said how is music being used in recovery, I go to the Narcotics Anonymous convention each year in Birmingham, and we have them all over the country. But Birmingham's like the UK one. But one that we have is we have in Manchester. I went to Manchester, and at the end, what we do is we all hold hands in a big circle. There's about 1,000 of you in a big circle, and as you can imagine, I have a moment's silence for those that have passed in the last 12 months. So what happens in the moment's silence is people start calling out people's names. And somebody will say John Smith, and someone will say Paul Woods, and somebody will say Paula, and then somebody will say 3 names with the same surname, and you're like, God, they're all families, and you have this moment where everyone's holding hands, and they're talking about the people that they lost. And then you look around, and you because you can see everybody, because you're in a circle, big circle, and you're holding hands. And you kind of think there's going to be holes in this circle next year. Some of the people who are in this circle are going to be called, and their names are going to be the ones that we call out, because relapses is sadly an issue in my fellowship, Narcotics Anonymous. Our relapses can be really deadly because your tolerance is down and things like that. If you have clean time for a while, you can have a hit and that's it. You're not coming back. You know what I mean? It can be really fatal. Whereas I think alcoholism is a little bit more of a slow nosedive, but it's still fatal. And at the end of that, so you're holding hands and you're already emotional by the end of it. A bagpiper comes out, plays Amazing Grace. You know what I mean? Yeah. Every single time, Mark, I have to get picked up off the floor. I'm crying, every single time I'm on my knees, I'm crying. I'm not the only one. And it's that gratitude moment, like that. It's just unreal.
I'm so glad you shared that story, because you've told me that story before about how Amazing Grace is used in that context. And we can only imagine how powerful that is.
Flaws you, Mark, it's never, I've been to 9 conventions of that type or something like that, and they don't always play Amazing Grace. Sometimes it's something different, you know what I mean? But the Scottish one especially, they have the bagpiper, and he comes through, and on every single time my legs have gone, I'm holding on to people's hands, I'm on my knees, streaming with tears,
Powerful stuff.
Kind of get up, my emotions have just gone,
Well, I want to ask you one more question to try and give us a positive end to this chat. It's been really interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. I want you to think of one song, anything. It doesn't have to be your absolute favorite. One song that you would recommend to someone to give someone's mental health an uplift. You need to make someone feel better with a song. What do you play them?
St. Dominic's Preview by Van Morrison. Okay. I just think it's a lovely song. I think it's dead melodic. I think it's got really nice chorus lines in, and it builds, it comes down. But yeah, St. Dominic's Preview by Van Morrison would be the song that I just love.
Brilliant. Listen, Mark, it's been a really fascinating chat. I love your passion for the music. I love the passion for what you do. And I wish you all the best with all of the things that you're doing with the Road to Recovery Trust. It's been fantastic to talk about music and meaning and mental health with you. So thank you so much for sharing your time.
Thank you for the opportunity. I love music, and just the chance to talk about it has just been. When you sent us that email, I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So thanks very much, Mark.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much.
Thank you.